It is November 1st. My God. It's been quite a year, another year here in Sacramento. Any Southern California, Costa Mesa people, if you know of a wonderful, perfect house for us to lease in Costa Mesa, please don't hesitate to give me a call because we are so terribly homesick for Costa Mesa and Southern California. Not that things aren't okay here. Uh, it's just not home. Okay. What I've got here, of course, is the double-headed eagle of the Scottish Rite. This particular diagram is of the 33rd degree, but the 32nd degree is just like that, except the triangle at the top there is black. Anyway, this is a very old copy. In the back, it's got it embossed there. It's a very old copy of a book called Morals and Dogma. Sounds pretty dull title of the Scottish Rite, and it's by Albert Pike. Okay, and the reason I've got it out today is not so much that I'm going to talk too much about Masonry, but I am going to talk a little bit about Israel Regardie and his, I guess we'd call it an introduction to the Qabalah, and it's one of the earlier works by him that got me started on this uh, crazy life anyway. And it was the title of the book, officially, the title of the book was A Garden of Pomegranates, an outline of the Kabbalah by Israel Regardie. This particular edition, because I believe there's quite a few editions, but this is from New Falcon Publications. And years ago, they were kind enough to ask me to pin a little introduction to it. And this introduction was not included in my collection of introductions that we published just a couple years ago called Allow Me to Introduce. So, and I've shared that book with you. Uh, but I don't believe I've shared this short little introduction with you before. This particular edition was published in 2019. Okay, so it's relatively new. But it's really good. It really is a good introduction to Kabbalah, and incidentally to tarot too. Okay, so I'm going to share that with you this morning. The little epigraph at the top. Kabbalah will never give us an aha, that's what that means, moment. Kabbalah only serves to get the small wheels of consciousness turning smoothly until the big wheel of consciousness becomes transcendently self-evident. Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford. I'm going to begin my words of introduction by sharing a little story of my own life. My father was a Freemason. He was raised to the sublime degree of Master Mason in the same year I was born. That same year he joined the Scottish Rite and eventually received his 32nd degree and became a sublime prince of the royal secret. That's the 32nd degree. He was very proud of all 32 of his degree titles, which he often recited from memory, but he always dramatically deepened his voice when he pronounced the words, "Sublime Prince of the Royal Secret." Now, I know I'd like to tell that story because it actually was sort of the starting gun of my mystical life. So forgive me if you've heard it before. What's the royal secret? Dad wouldn't tell me. His only answer was, I would discover it myself. I wouldn't exactly say my father was a mystic or a magician or a Kabbalist, but he was a free thinker and an insatiable reader. He collected and maintained a small but respectable Masonic library and always encouraged me to browse it and read anything and everything that interested me. It was one of his books, Morals and Dogma, by Albert Pike, that I found my clue to the secret. Strangely enough, it was set the course of my entire adult life. I confess I was initially attracted to this large and very old Masonic book because of the pictures, the spooky symbols, and the mystic illustrations. Now I'm going to just try to thumb through this for just a second, see if I can come up with a couple of them. There's not many, okay? It's mostly small print. But each of the headings has a Masonic symbol of some kind that look pretty damn spooky. Let's see here. So compared to, well, yeah, here's the illustration for the Knight of East and West section. Okay, don't you think that was interesting? Is that what you do at Lodge? Yeah, wow. Let's see if I can find another one that sort of blew my mind. Oh, yeah, yeah. The Elu of the Nine, or the yeah, that's just something a little kid just would love. Anyway, I digress. Let's see. When I tried to actually read parts of the book, however, I knew I was way out of my grammar school depth. What I could understand was enough to open a window to the past, to a strange history of human thought, ancient gods and civilizations, exotic cultures and religions, bizarre mystery schools and magical practices. I also kept stumbling upon references to something called Qabalah, and in here, Pike spells Qabalah Kabbalah, to something called the Qabalah and the works of the Hermetic philosophers. In fact, there are so many references of Kabbalah written in the text that they covered 2 full pages in the index, linked to 65 pages of reference to this mystical science. Here, hang on. Maybe I can actually show you that. This is the index, okay? The index is huge. Just starting right with K and going all the way down there and that page and all the way down that way. And the references to Kabbalah only end by the next K word in here, Kether. And it's full of all of the classic Kabbalistic Kether Hokmah Bina Aleph Mem. Okay. Let's see. One reference in particular would ignite within my quest for the royal secret and eventually set the trajectory of my entire life's work. And here's the quote from Albert Pike in Morals and Dogma. He who desires to attain to the understanding of the grand word, okay, the word of a Mason, and the possession of the great secret, ought carefully to read the Hermetic philosophers, and must take for the key of their allegories the single dogma of Hermes contained in his emerald tablet, and follow the order indicated in the Kabbalistic alphabet of tarot. Tell that to your grandpa, the 32nd or 33rd degree. Okay. Maybe his eyebrows would go, oh yeah, what are you saying? My entire adult life has been an exploration of the great works of the Hermetic philosophers, the Qabalah, and tarot. Ironically, within Masonry itself, there's little official literature dealing directly with the esoteric or magical aspects of Qabalah or tarot. With the exception of sublime hints scattered within the degree ceremonies of the Scottish Rite and his book, Morals and Dogma. Oh, and there's other Pike books, too, that are available, that are pretty damn good. But anyway, Brother Pike pretty much leaves everyone to their own self-education. I'm sad to report that very few Masons today share my passion. There's more and more. As a matter of fact, most young men who are joining the Masons nowadays are doing so for esoteric yearnings. So every year I'm more and more encouraged. Part of my self-education began with the works of Israel Regardie and his Garden of Pomegranates. It's one of the finest introductions to the study of modern Hermetic Kabbalah I can recommend. 40 years ago, now this is probably, 50 years ago, I visited Regardie at his home in Studio City, just a few months after I read it. Okay, so this not quite 50 years ago. I was Regardie starstruck, and my brain was saturated with his writings, having recently digested The Tree of Life and the Complete Golden Dawn System of Magic, The Middle Pillar, and my Rosicrucian Adventure. We shared champagne cocktails about 10 o'clock in the morning, too. We shared champagne cocktails and soon discovered that as young men, we had both been members of the Order of De Molay, the boys' Masonic body. We giggled as we awkwardly exchanged the secret step, sign, and grip of a De Molay initiate. It was a wonderful icebreaker. And so was the champagne cocktail. Loosened both of our tongues. Naturally, I wanted to talk to Regardie about his experiences as Aleister Crowley's secretary in the 1920s, and I had to ask the obligatory questions about goat sacrifices and baby eating. I also attempted a few neophyte questions about the Kabbalah. Okay. Another thing besides asking about goat sacrifices and baby eating, I started to ask him, did Crowley bugger you? Because Regardie was a young man and Crowley had the reputation of being wildly omnisexual. And And as I was trying to say, form the question, uh, he must have read my mind enough to say, no, the old man never buggered me and never tried. I often wondered why. No, I digress. Excuse me. I also attempted a few neophyte questions about Qabalah. However, what impressed me most about the man was simply his personality and character. He was charming, but not affected, knowledgeable, but not arrogant in his mastery of the subjects, witty, but not cynical or sarcastic. I never had met anyone who seemed so comfortable in their own skin. If this is what self-mastery looks like, if this is what happens to a person after a lifetime of magical study and practice, I thought, that's what I want. Qabalah isn't a religion or a belief system, but a process of systematically waking up to self-realization by actually tricking our consciousness into expanding. It does this by reorganizing our perception of absolutely everything we observe and every thought we think. Kabbalistic thought allows us to expand our consciousness to be a more accurate reflection of the supreme singularity of consciousness. Call it God, or call it the great architect of the universe, or just the big whatever it is, as above, so below. The oldest textbook of Qabalah is the Sephar Yetzirah, the Book of Creation, or more accurately, the Book of Formation. Nobody really knows who originally wrote it or when, but it predates all other works of its kind. It starts off right by telling us, Yah, the Lord of hosts, formed and created the universe in 32 mysterious paths of wisdom. Then it goes on to say these paths consist of a decade out of nothing and 22 fundamental letters. Okay, the decade out of nothing are the Sephiroth on that tree of life there, and the 22 letters are the paths that connect them. And this very nice book cover there. Okay. The decade out of nothing is described as the tree of life, 10 fundamental emanations from which number 1, Godhead, somehow emanated out of a pre-existing nothingness. To our everyday consciousness, this process may look like creation, but from the point of view of Godhead, it's like being knocked on the head and drugged and falling asleep and experiencing 10 levels of deeper and deeper hallucinatory dreams. Number 1 is the ultimate wake-up reality. It's who we really are. 2 and 3 and all the other numbers in the Tree of Life represent a progressive descent of consciousness. It's a cosmic Russian doll of consciousness. Godhead dreaming dreams within dreams within dreams within dreams within dreams, until finally number 10 we come to your sleepy head, as above, so below. Kabbalistic study, exercises, and meditations help us identify, dissect, and understand each level of the Supreme Consciousness so that we may systematically awaken from each level of the great dream. The 22 letters connect the tree's 10 emanations, and like 22 little electrical transformers, each path serves to step up or step down the consciousness frequencies or levels of awakeness that the emanations connect. These 22 paths are the letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and the quoting Pike here, Kabbalistic alphabet of tarot. as Brother Pike was referring to. Kabbalists strive to connect everything in the universe with everything else in the universe. We train ourselves by viewing every thought, every concept, every object as a reflection of every other object, thought, and concept. Kabbalists continue with this perpetual background meditation until the infinite unity of all existence becomes profoundly self-evident. The Kabbalist consciousness is finally realized as the perfect reflection of the divine supreme consciousness. As above, so below. Now that's my little introduction to Regardie's Garden of Pomegranates. I'm sure I've shared sections of that with you before, but I was going through my book, Allow Me to Introduce, because I thought for sure that I included it in that book, but I hadn't. Anyway, that's it for today. I'll see you tomorrow for Saturday morning cartoons. Until then, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt, shall be the whole of the law. Love's the law, love under will.